Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, it's the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston, here with a kind-hearted woman named Eleanor, who has agreed to let me record our time together so you can benefit from her experience and strength and hope and wisdom, as well as her trials and tribulations and stumbles and falls. Eleanor, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Hey, could we start with a bit of your food history and what it was like, and then tell me what happened?
Totally. From about the age of 13 to about 17, I was bulimic. I would restrict very low, like anything between 0 to 500 calories a day. And then, of course, I'd binge because I was starving. And then I'd fast or I'd purge. And I actually kind of lost my gag reflex because I did that so much. And then I would abuse laxatives. And this went on for years and years and years. Obviously, when I was quite young, I went to so many treatment centers. I paid loads of money. My mum was really worried about me. So she was obviously trying to get me into treatment. And none of it helped. I was just so fed up. I went to another treatment center. They completely ignored the binging issue because I was a bit underweight at the time. They wanted to get my weight up. And every week I would come in, they got you to fill out a food diary. And it would just be like, here's a few days. Oh, here's a massive binge. They would literally just be like, oh, great, your weight's gone up. And I was like, you're not telling me how to solve this. Like, what am I going to do when my weight's normal? And like this behavior is just continuing. And I didn't know that much about the psychology of it, despite being very into psychology. In December of last year, I immediately made some rules, and now I realize they weren't very good. They weren't very clear. I had a success pretty much immediately, but then I realized my rules weren't quite great, and I did the online intensive in January, and that changed my life. It was like the biggest problem in my life was suddenly solved. And it was just fantastic. And probably that was the first time I felt like happy in all those years, because suddenly I realized why I was doing this. Like, it wasn't because I was like a really bad person or because there was something deeply wrong with me. And unlike all the therapists before who said, oh, you're doing this because of like trauma. I was like, well, if I was doing this because of trauma, it would have started when the trauma happened, not many, many years later.
What an interesting point.
Exactly. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, finally someone gets it. I was getting so fed up with people telling me that. And it was fantastic. And then what happened after the intensive, it was great. I've never felt happier with my eating in my life. And I did better at university as well. I was in my first year at uni when all of this was going down. My grades in my first semester when I was dealing with binge eating were terrible because I couldn't focus. And I was wasting so much time on binge eating. And then as soon as I did the intensive, I got firsts. My life just got so much better. But what happened was, and this is why I'm on this call now, my weight never got out of being underweight because I'm a very active person. And what happened kind of a few months after the intensive was I started to restrict, like not because of my rules, just kind of outside of them. So my weight started to drop. I was doing a lot of exercise, and then I got a job where I was on my feet for 8 hours a day, but I didn't change my exercise routine. Cut out all carbohydrates apart from once a day. I was eating just too little for what I was doing, quite obviously. And my BMI dropped to 16, which is very underweight.
Yeah.
Then what happened was I couldn't really see it. I don't know why. I just really couldn't see I was underweight. I do think I have a bit of an issue with like my body image. Well, I definitely do. I was at home with my parents at this point because of COVID. I couldn't move out. And my mum intervened and she was like, I'm not letting you do this anymore because you're actually killing yourself. You do realize that. And I was like, oh yeah, but like, look, I'm not binging. And she's like, that's all well and good, but there's no point in that you stop one thing that was killing you and then you're just replacing it with another thing. And so then in that August, I stopped exercising because that was like one of the main things. And, I introduced things back into my diet. I actually made a meal plan to help me gain weight in a controlled way. And that was really good. But there was a few times where I didn't break my rules, but I just overate. Thinking back on it, it maybe was because I was so depleted. It was maybe my body just being like, oh, look, we are actually allowed to eat now. Let's have a fair bit of this, which is understandable. I know that that's actually where binging kind of comes from. It's a survival instinct. I had some success. My BMI went up to 18. So that was good. And then I went back to university and I felt unstable in my eating because it changed so much from what I was used to, as in very restrictive, very measured, everything controlled. I just went straight back to that and my weight just went back down. And then again, my mum intervened, the doctor intervened this time because she was really worried about my hormones. They looked at them and basically my estrogen was non-existent. And I obviously haven't had my period in many, many years, which is very bad for a woman, especially like if you're my age, and you were still growing when that happened. They just said, yeah, you need to gain weight, you need to get to BMI 20. I dropped the exercise and then I started to eat a lot more, still not breaking my rules, but because of my rules, they're not that restrictive. You can still overeat, like make no jokes about it. And I was eating a lot. I wasn't measuring or weighing anything. And so there was little weight change. And then they just told me, like, yeah, cut out the exercise because that's just undoing everything you're doing. And so I did. But my eating became like almost more kind of hedonistic and chaotic because of that. And I started to read a lot into, regaining your period and things like that. The problem was like maybe the advice they were giving would be all well and good for someone who doesn't have a history of binge eating, but they were kind of just being like, oh, eat whatever you want, eat whenever you like, follow your cravings, don't have rules, don't have restrictions. And that they kind of said like, oh, binging's normal and it will go away once your period returns. And that caused me to break my rules for the first time ever in my life, and the only time ever, I'm now saying, because I think I was so physically and mentally drained by this. Remember, this has been going on years, this kind of battle. Then I got this pig squeal, which I've refuted since because I realized it was absolutely ridiculous. Within an hour of just being like, oh, I will try their advice, it was straight back to probably what my worst binges were like when I was bulimic, like really scary for me. And then since then, I kind of go through this thing where like I have something really bad happen, I panic, and then that clears and I think about it. And since then I was like, right, I need to do something because I can't let this go on. This is really upsetting me. And I added 2 rules. I usually only have 2 before, to like regain structure and the stability I felt like I'd lost since August. And so I added one about always weighing and measuring my food apart from fruit and vegetables because I don't see any point in really limiting those, and always following a meal plan because I made myself a new one. Again, for gaining weight, it's fairly similar to the one I had. I just adjusted it a little bit based on what my doctor had told me that I need to eat. And even after like a few days, that's only since last Wednesday, I've felt better physically. But the main issue now, which is why I'm on this call, is I want to regain the stability and confidence I had before. And I don't want to feel like I'm always battling with myself, like, oh, I don't know how I'm meant to eat now. And I don't know how I'm meant to eat when I'm going to maintain, because it's like I've only ever known how to lose weight or overeat and gain weight. I've not really ever had a very healthy relationship with food. Obviously, I did when I was a child and before I had bulimia, but it's very hard to remember that. It's no point just trying to go back to that because I don't remember it. I want to feel free, like the freedom I felt with my eating when I initially stopped binging and wasn't restricting. I don't want to feel this like pressure, this constant battle, this constraint, this anxiety. I just want to be able to achieve that really nice freedom I had before, but obviously not fall back into restricting and not fall into overeating. That's why I'm here.
Okay. So let me just say, legally, I'm required to give a disclaimer that says that we didn't design for any diagnosed eating disorder. Anorexia and bulimia are dangerous, and I'm not permitted to give you advice that goes against your doctors. I have a lot of ideas. Sounds like you have a lot of ideas that are probably on track because it sounds like you did really well with it before. since we're going to be public about this, I need people to know that you need your doctor's approval to do any of this. Okay. That said, I'm sorry for having to do that.
Yes, okay.
It annoys me a little bit, but I have to. That said, what's your best thinking about the rules you should have now?
I do think, as much as I want to just have the two rules because I had them before and had no problems, I think because of all that has happened, I do need to have the added stability of the two, the weighing and measuring and following the meal plan. Because I think without that, I'm just going to have the same situation as I did before of just overeating constantly just because, oh, I need to gain weight and I shouldn't restrict. I do think those are fine. I have them. Actually, I put them into my food plan, but I obviously have the original one saved for if I do want to go back to that. And then I have it in my mind that maybe once I got more used to eating in a more stable manner, once again, I can just go back to those because I was able to eat fine within those before. But I do have a little bit of conflict in my mind about, oh God, now I've got 4 rules instead of 2.
What are the first 2 rules?
So I'll never consume calories between my 3 meals. And I'll never again consume sugar. And I define sugar as any food or drink that's sweet tasting apart from fresh or dried fruit and like savory sauces which contain sugar. They don't affect me. I did a little bit of a trial with that. So that's my 2 rules there.
3 meals a day with nothing in between.
Mm-hmm.
You avoid anything sweet besides savory sauces and fruit. Fried fruit is okay. And you follow a meal plan. You have to write it down the day before or something?
It's actually the ones that they would give to people who have anorexia and are recovering from it, because I was told by my doctor, eat 2,500 calories to gain weight. I found a meal plan that has that exact amount, but I modified it to fit my dietary kind of requirements, as in I'm pescatarian. So I do eat fish, but I don't eat meat. I do eat dairy products. And also my doctor did say you need to eat a lot more healthy fats because I cut those out of my diet entirely and they're very important for hormones. So I added some more of those in. So I do have that and I have it written out. So then my rule just says I will always follow my meal plan, and then I can reference my meal plan on another page because I read mine out from little pages. So that's how I do it.
This sounds brilliant to me because you've eliminated the snacking and the sugar that was driving the binging,
Mm-hmm.
but you're also keeping intellectual track, weighing and measuring of what you're actually eating, and you're following a meal plan so you don't over restrict. And so that you don't eat too much either. So I think you've thought it through really well. Why does the pig say it's a problem that you have 4 rules?
It might just be a mental adjustment. I know from when I first started, it did suddenly feel like quite a big step to even have 1 rule. And I think this will pass the feeling of like, oh my God, I've got 4 rules now. How am I going to remember them? Because I know I will remember them.
Do you know how we can turn it into 3?
No.
You can say, I will always follow a weighed and measured meal plan.
That's very clever.
So now you only have 3 rules.
Yeah, and that's a lot more manageable in my head.
Okay.
Okay, that's brilliant.
If you do follow this weighed and measured meal plan with 3 meals a day and cut out the sugar in the way we talked about, what's life going to be like in a couple of months?
I think I would probably be back to how I was before, feeling really happy with how I eat and not feeling restricted because I won't be restricting. I think that would bring back all my confidence in my eating with the weighing and measuring. I know exactly what I'm eating. I know I'm eating the right amount. I'm not eating between meals, which was like the biggest thing when I used to binge. I never binged at meal times. It was always between meals. I'm not eating sugar. I have a very big thing against eating sugar because for me, it's just the biggest trigger ever. And so I think I'd be feeling much better. And I think mentally, it would actually ease the anxiety because of the weighing and measuring. I know exactly what's going in the meal plan. I know exactly what I need to eat. It gets rid of the decision making. So I don't have to really spend all this time worrying, thinking, about what I need to eat. So I think it would benefit me so much. And I can't see it causing me more stress than what happened before.
Beautiful. Beautiful. What happens if you don't adopt this 3-rule meal plan? What'll happen in a couple of years?
Well, all I know is I'm unfortunately someone who has a problem with binging and has a pig in my head. I can't get rid of that. Even with the 2 rules I've had, it's still very possible for me to overeat. And I know my eating problem would swing from one to another, as I know it does in other people. And I think in a year's time, I would go from being underweight to probably overweight. I'd be as miserable as I was when I was bulimic. I have no doubt in my head, because that's how I felt the past few weeks when I've been overeating at my 3 meals, and that would just continue. That would snowball. It would be so depressing to go back to the past that I say it in my big why, that I never want to go back to. Don't want that for myself. Like, I don't deserve that.
Good. So why does your pig say that you can't follow these 3 rules for a couple of months?
I think it's just being opportunistic, as it always is. It's like, well, you got this advice that you shouldn't have rules, so why are you adding more? And in my refutation, I was like, yes, well, those people are giving very general advice. They haven't actually spoken to me. They don't know my history. This is general advice. Would you take this real general advice that's not tailored to you? No. And my pig's also being like, oh, 3 rules, that's so many. You were fine with 2 rules. And I think I still have this perception of what's a binge and what's not a binge. Obviously, it's 1 bite of your food plan. I even have a tattoo on my arm that says not 1 bite to remind me of that. But my pig is like, oh, but then you wouldn't be binging like you did in the past because you're still eating 3 meals and you're not eating sugar. So why do you need this extra rule? And I think that was its like main argument. It's like, it's not the same binging that you did in the past, so it's okay. But it's not okay because I feel terrible afterwards. If I feel the same as I do after doing that, as I did after a binge 4 years ago, it's still bad. It's still awful. And it's still in my mind a binge, even if technically by my rules it wouldn't be. I know, like, I have the higher knowledge. I'm an intelligent person.
Very good. Is there anything else? Any other reason the pig says you can't do this?
I think it just wants to confuse me about when you need to maintain, what are you going to do then? You can't just use your meal plan then. It's kind of encroaching on me, this anxiety about how should you eat when you want to maintain, like when you're done trying to gain weight, which isn't too far off for me. I'm actually fairly close, just a few more BMI points. And it kind of irritates me constantly. My pig never really kind of says for me to break my rules, apart from like a few occasions. It's more like it's just breaking down my spirit. It's getting me wound up so that obviously I don't make very good decisions.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it's just trying to aggravate me, like, oh, but what are you going to do when you need to maintain? Like, what are you going to do then with your meal plan? It's intimidating me essentially about what do you do when you want to maintain? Because like I said, I've only ever really known in my life how to eat to severely lose weight or just overeat constantly and eat hedonistically and really chaotically.
Okay, so why don't we take them in reverse order? Let's start with that one. How will you ever maintain, because you won't be able to use this meal plan then, so you really shouldn't adopt these rules? Where's the lie in that?
Well, who says I can't adapt my meal plan to fit maintenance calories? It's probably quite easy to do that. And it's not a difficult meal plan to follow. So the pig's acting like it's an impossible task, but it's really not. All it is a few little changes. And it's acting like it's this huge roadblock. And it's clearly not.
It's something that provides you some safety and helps you follow your best thinking about what you should be eating. And you can adapt it to accomplish whatever goal you want to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. What about when the pig says you shouldn't have rules at all? That you've been told by professionals that rules are bad and they'll cause you to restrict and you're not supposed to restrict anything. What about that?
Well, from my experience, in the 1 hour that I decided not to have rules, it was a disaster. And I know from the past, when I didn't have any rules, it was just a constant battle. It was much worse. So this idea of you shouldn't have rules, you shouldn't restrict, doesn't really apply to me because I know I'm someone who needs rules. I think it was either in an interview you did or something like that. You addressed that whole idea of like deprivation and having rules and restriction. And really, it isn't a form of restriction. It's a form of structure. It's a habit. Whereas I know what restriction is because I've done it before. It's having some rules saying you don't eat between meals is not the same as you're only going to eat 500 calories a day. It's not the same. So my pig is getting over dramatic. It's throwing a hissy fit and trying to make me see that my rules that are very sensible, very healthy, are the same as starving yourself, which they're not.
Rules are kind of like kitchen knives or kitchen tools. And you can use a really sharp kitchen knife to chop vegetables and make a really good salad. Or you could use a sharp kitchen knife to murder somebody. It's just a tool. And to say that we shouldn't have utensils because some people are murderers, it doesn't really make sense because some people do the wrong thing. You could use rules to be restrictive. You have to be careful. And then, in our programs, we're always going over very carefully. We don't want people losing more than a pound a week, and we want them to monitor that. And we kind of monitor that with them. When someone does start losing a bunch of weight, we go very carefully through their rules and see what they're doing. But you can have rules that prevent you from restricting also. There is this philosophy out there that says that rules are bad. It never really made sense to me.
Doesn't make sense to me either.
3 is one too many rules. You're already having 3 meals a day with no sugar. Why do you need to do anything else?
Clearly, that's not enough for me at the minute. Just having 2 rules about 3 meals and no sugar is not enough to prevent overeating. And maybe those 2 rules were enough in the past, but I need this right now. And I've proven to myself over the past month or so that I need that. And I have evidence. The pig has no evidence that I don't need this rule.
Eleanor, to the best of my ability, all my experience, all the people I've worked with, and everything that I've seen, I think these are 3 really good rules for you.
I think they're very good, actually. I really like them.
To the best of my ability. How confident are you that you're going to be able to have 3 meals a day with nothing in between, no sugar except for fruit and savory sauces, and that you're going to follow a weighed and measured meal plan for the next 2 months?
I feel like 100% confident. That's not an impossible task. And that's a very doable task. It's just habit. And I've built those habits before. So why can't I do it again? There's no difference between how I built them before and how I'm going to build them now. And so that's why I feel confident, because I know I can do it.
Very good. Is there anything you'd like to ask me, or questions or concerns that you might have?
On my meal plan, obviously, I followed the guidelines for what I should be eating. And see, when I go to maintenance, would it just be a good idea just to go through that and adapt the measurements and just take out the kind of things that I've added in there that I know are kind of the calorifically dense things that I'm eating right now to gain weight? I feel like if I want to just switch to maintenance, I'm going to do it in a very soft landing way and just take one thing out at a time, so I don't suddenly just go from, yes, I'm eating this amount, to suddenly, dropping right down. Because I think in my case, it would be going from 2,500 calories to just 2,000, because that's what I need to maintain a healthy weight, because I'm fairly active.
Yes. I like your thinking.
Okay.
Basically, I like your thinking about everything.
Oh, that's good.
Basically, you seem like an A+ student, and you've got the motivation to fix this because you've been through hell. You seem like the kind of person who's done and is going to stick this time. That's what it seems like to me. If you would like to do a follow-up when you get to maintenance, if that would make you feel happier or more confident, then I'm happy to do that with you.
I'd really actually like that, because I think that would be helpful. And also, thank you so much for saying that, because it means a lot coming from someone who I really admire for their thinking, to say that I've got good thinking.
It seems solid to me. I'm always cautious because I'm going to get sued sooner or later. But I cannot speak the truth. It seems right to me. So, okay. So send me an email or a Facebook message, or put it on the board that I'd said I'd do a follow-up with you when you got to maintenance to help you make that switch. And we'll record another podcast at that time. Okay.
That would be so good. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'll look forward to it.
Yes. Thank you so much. And Today was brilliant.
Good. Very good.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.